Hi, everybody. Today, I wanted to kind of explore a little bit more this negativity bias that we all have. Now, I've talked about this in other podcasts before, but I really want to talk about how debilitating it is when you need to get something done, or want to get something done, or want to move to a new place, or want to do something really big or challenging, or just as those times when your mind just kind of spirals into this all that can go wrong kind of thinking, and how that type of thinking really stops you from forward movement in all the different ways that you're looking for the forward movement. Negativity bias is a natural thing. We all have it. Our body's way of keeping us safe. So if we view things as negative, we're less likely to engage with them, and in not engaging, that keeps us safe. It's not really the way you should be conducting your life. It's not really beneficial to you on all the other levels. It's just a biological notion that keeps your actual body safe. So it could be things like never getting in too deep, never working on relationships, never starting relationships, never going for bigger jobs, never learning new things, never stepping out of your comfort zone, and all of these things that really bring you so much more happiness in life. But we tend to put them off because we are worried about what will go wrong, what won't happen, how will we mess up? Will people think that we're silly or make fun of us, or will we be treated badly, or will people think we're dumb? Are we dumb? Are we not smart enough to have this? An example of negativity bias that gets a little bit out of control is when you do things like you don't think you're good enough, you don't think you're capable of doing something. It can play a role in feeling like you are incapable of things, not able to do what you want to do in life, like feeling that you are an imposter in your job, imposter syndrome and things like that. Like at any given time, people are going to find you out and they're going to see you as being not capable of doing your job. And you just kind of run into all this communication about that with inside your own mind. It's not even that other people are telling you that. You're just deciding all these negative factors about yourself, and you're letting those negative factors become part of your self-definition. Like you're not smart enough, like you're not capable, like you can't do anything new. And it stops you from learning new things and doing new things and trying new things and meeting new people and really getting out there in life and experiencing it to its fullest. So how can you stop some of this negativity bias when it's happening? How can you realize it when it's cropping up? And how can you keep it in check? Sometimes negative bias is a good thing because it will keep you safe, but it doesn't have an on and off switch. It's just going to think everything's negative all the time unless you develop a way to maneuver and navigate those thoughts when they come up and decide for yourself, is it worth taking the chance on this new thing or not? Is it worth doing this or not? What can you do? You're going to be surprised at how easy it is to really decide if the negativity bias or your belief that's negative is hurting you or helping you, worth listening to or not listening to. And that's really comes down to this old school way of managing the pros and cons, like asking yourself, instead of what are all the bad things that could happen when this happens, which is normally what we do. We think about stepping out on a limb and all we think about is what can go wrong. But what if you thought about what can go right? So here are a few questions you can ask yourself about what can go right. What if it all works out? Ask yourself that. What would it look like? Imagine in your mind's eye. What if it all works out? Everything happens as you hope or want it to. What if you trusted in the process? What if you just let go and you let the process unfold? What would that look like? What if you trusted that everything's going to happen? How would you feel? A lot of times we don't trust the process, so we spend so much time in anxiety and stress mode just because we don't trust the process. But what if we trusted it? You could let go of a lot of those anxious feelings around something and just let it unfold and see what it is. What if you ask yourself, what if the best thing happens here? What is the best outcome? And what if that happens? What would that look like? What would it be like? What if I was strong enough all along? What if I could handle this all along? What if I did get what I wanted? What if everything just worked out? And what if it didn't? Would there be a silver lining there? Would it be a blessing in disguise? What if I could do it all? What if I could handle it all? What if I could be it all? What would that look like in its most positive sense? Like you could also say, well, having it all and doing it all is also a lot of work and stress and anxiety. And when would I have time to just relax? What if I'm already more successful than I know that I am? Like this really pertains to when you're about to maybe go for a new job or promotion or relationships and things like that. What if I wasn't actually stuck? This is another thing. We often think we're stuck because we're overwhelmed by all that can go wrong. We become stuck, so we can't move forward, right? But what if you weren't actually stuck? Because the truth is, you aren't. That's in your mind. You could decide right now that you're not stuck. What if you were smarter, more successful, more creative, more talented, more understanding than you realized? Whatever that blank is. What if you were more fill in the blank? What would that look like? What if I were better prepared than I realized? That again is like a new job can be one of the things. What if I realized I wasn't the only one that felt this way? Because in reality, you aren't. There's so many other people experiencing the same things that you are. They may experiencing them slightly different and uniquely to themselves, but they could be also. How many people out there right now are wanting to get a new job or starting a new relationship or ending a relationship or buying a house or moving or whatever it might be, going to college? What if this was never about me in the first place? Now, this is when you're actually thinking about some idea you have in your mind. You don't even know if it's true or not, but you think that other people think something. You're assuming other people think something like it's your fault, you're to blame. But what if people never thought it was about you in the first place? What would that look like? What if you woke up tomorrow and everything was perfect? This is known as the magic question in coaching. What if you woke up tomorrow and everything was perfect? What would that look like? What would tip you off that it was perfect? How would you know? And here's some really big ones that play into your negative bias and how it affects your internal beliefs of self. What if you were enough? What if you mattered? What if you were capable? What would happen if no one judged you at all? What would you do in your life if you knew you could be free of the judgment of others? A lot, believe me. For me, that's one of the biggest struggling blocks that I have is what will other people think? What if you were strong enough? What if I looked at this with the eyes of who I used to be? We all look at things in hindsight, and so we all have a tendency to, when a situation happens to us, we then review it in our minds, but we're reviewing it with hindsight. So in the moment, we didn't have hindsight, and maybe we made a decision that we now regret, or that wasn't the best decision, or maybe we're tearing it apart because that's what we do to feel lesser about ourselves because of our internal beliefs of self. What if you looked at it from someone before the situation happened? Or what if you looked at this promotion in your life through the eyes of the person you were when you were in college or when you were in high school or prior to when you had this big dream to do something or be something? What would you view it as in that stage in your life? This is a kind of a really big Zen one. What if you were already free of the suffering that you feel that you have? That's a Buddhist principle, to be free of suffering. That's how you work your way up to enlightenment. But what if you could do that? What if whatever was happening to you right now was not causing you suffering? How would you relate to it, and what would you do? It's to take some of these questions when you're facing a large decision, a big decision, something that you're going to have to move forward, move upward, move beyond, learn something new, step out on a limb. Ask yourself some of these questions and actually write down what you think. Maybe do some free flow writing on what if everything turned out perfectly? What if it went horribly wrong? How would it be any different than now? What are some positives you can bring out of it? Whatever questions really resonate with you about the process, stop and ask yourself those questions. So you're stopping the spiral of all these negative thoughts you're having about the situation. You're just having one negative thought after the other. It's really spiraling. You're up at 3 a.m. constantly thinking about it. It leads to all the other things you did wrong in your life. It leads to something you did when you were 3, et cetera, et cetera. It just goes on and on. You're reviewing your entire life at this point and all the horrible things you did or stupid things you did or dumb things you did or mistakes that you made. Stop that cycle of just going down the list of those things. Stop the cycle and ask yourself some questions. What would happen if it worked out? What would happen if all those past experiences didn't really matter to anyone? What if no one remembered them? What if they didn't matter to you? What if they weren't part of your self-definition? Who would you be? What would you do? Where would you go? Stop the cycle of just stressing and creating a lot of anxiety for yourself. Stop it by asking yourself various questions. And maybe you have the questions at the ready. I used to do this before because I really had a problem with spiraling and the negative bias really badly. And I taught myself not to do that anymore by having these questions at the ready. So when I felt myself spiraling, I would take out my little list of questions. It was actually a piece of paper. And I would ask myself the questions on the list. And I would always end with, you are enough. You matter. You are loved. I would always end with that after I was talking to myself about the questions, and it stopped me from spiraling. I also really started doing a lot of meditation, which helped a lot in this process as well. You can also meditate on these questions. Just take one question, set a timer for 5 minutes, and think only about that question and all the possibilities that could happen. It just kind of re-triggers your brain. It switches your brain into a different space of not going down the spiral, but instead contemplating positive aspects of the thing that you're thinking about. So I hope that helped you. I hope it works out for you. Please let me know how it goes. And know that I love you and I support you. And you have this. You can stop the negative spiral.